Byron? Bell? Barry? Who wins next? Busch? Bowman? Bubba? How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Happy Friday. Kyle Busch called out Carson Hocevar this week. We'll get to that in just a moment, but first, a quick Homestead Miami Speedway update. This afternoon, the city of Homestead, Florida, said that the wild grass fires are now 30% contained and said the NASCAR events are still on as scheduled. Things seem to be trending a positive direction, but if you're headed to Homestead Miami Speedway this weekend, be safe, pay attention to any potential road closures. Hope everyone stays safe and has a good time down in South Florida this weekend. I want to talk about Kyle Busch. He sat down with Kevin Harvick on Harvick's Happy Hour podcast earlier this week. Good interview. They covered a variety of topics. A few takeaways. Busch said that RCR is ahead of where they were at this time last year. The early results back that up. Busch already has 3 top 10s this season, led the most laps at COTA. A lot of encouraging signs. I'll link the full interview down below, but Busch also talked about adjusting his driving style to accommodate the next-gen car. He said he's become more reliant on his crew chief and engineers to make the right adjustments. This quote jumped out at me. Busch said, "I've had to take more of a back seat on calling for adjustments." He said he's talked with Chase Elliott, who's also had to adjust his driving style. A lot of interesting stuff. Again, I'll link the full conversation down below, but I want to focus on one section in particular. Busch and Harvick talked about younger drivers, racing etiquette, and Kyle explained why he does not vibe with Carson Hocevar. Busch said, quote, "The biggest problem I have with Hocevar is when he was 13 or 14 years old, I was racing at one of his home tracks in Michigan in a super late model when I was a Cup guy. Somewhere early in the race, I wasn't that great, but I was biding my time just riding. He comes up alongside me, sideswipes me, puts me in the front stretch fence and goes on. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? Never nothing after the fact. Never a sorry, hey, my bad, nothing. Same thing right now. He hasn't learned not one thing because he hasn't been under someone's wing this entire time." Ooh. Wasn't expecting Busch to drop some deep Hocevar lore. He buttoned up this conversation by saying, quote, "There's no fixing what we've got going right now, with everyone running over everybody." I have some opinions on that. First, I'm aware of the irony. Kyle Busch was a lot like Carson Hocevar when he was that age. Edge of control, made some aggressive mistakes, made some mental mistakes. Shoot, Kyle Busch was like 26 years old when he fenced Ron Hornaday at Texas. But I'm not someone who thinks that Kyle Busch's past discredits his current argument. My thing is, when Kyle Busch rants about Carson Hocevar, then says there's no fixing the problem, I have to ask, have you tried? Have you made an effort to reach Carson Hocevar, to mentor, coach? Have you confronted Carson Hocevar face to face? Because here's the thing, Kyle Busch, years ago, was Carson Hocevar. And he talks about in this podcast, long time ago, Tony Stewart pulled him aside, told him, hey, you need to rein it in. You need to be more in control. That was a formative moment in Kyle Busch's young career. Kyle Busch was once the mentee. Tony Stewart was the mentor. Life is a cycle. Now Kyle Busch has grown up quite a bit. I think he's one of the cleanest, fairest, most respectful racers out there. Now Kyle Busch is the mentor and Hocevar's the mentee. Kyle Busch has a new role now. He can't just sit back and say, oh, nothing can be done. Nothing can fix it. No, it's your job now to fix it. And what shocks me most about those comments is that Kyle Busch has been a strong mentor-like figure in recent years. He mentions in this podcast, William Byron, Christopher Bell, throw in an Eric Jones, all young racers that came through the KBM system early in their careers were coached to some degree by Kyle Busch. All 3 drivers I just named would likely be considered respectful, clean racers. Clearly, their time at Kyle Busch Motorsports made some sort of positive impact. Kyle Busch also talks about in this podcast, a couple years ago when he and Christopher Bell had a couple run-ins, Busch confronted Bell, remember? And Busch credits that confrontation now for the clean finish we saw at COTA a couple weeks ago. So, Kyle Busch himself has successfully coached and mentored young drivers in the past. So why Why is he throwing up his hands and giving up on Carson Hocevar when it's not clear he's even made an effort? That's my problem. I mean, go back to Atlanta. Hocevar made a few enemies, including Kyle Busch. Ross Chastain pulled him aside after the race. Ryan Blaney confronted him, spoke face to face. Kyle Busch had a chance and did not take it. So maybe Kyle has spoken to Hocevar face-to-face in the past. Maybe he's worked his way into Carson's Twitch chat before, didn't get the response he wanted. Either way, I'm surprised to hear Kyle say that, I guess is what I should say, because again, he has proven to be an effective mentor many times in the past. Kyle Busch is a 2-time Cup champion, future Hall of Famer. He commands respect in the garage. Calling out Carson on a podcast isn't going to have an effect. Confronting Carson face-to-face at the track might make a lasting impact. So that's my take. I empathize with Kyle Busch, but I don't want to hear him say nothing can be done. His role now, late in his career, is to be that mentor, like Mark Martin was, like Tony Stewart was. That is Kyle Busch's new role. I want to see the Busches, the Keselowskis, the Hamlins embrace that role. Denny has embraced it to some degree. I mean, he met face-to-face with Ross Chastain a couple of years ago, and they worked things out. I don't want Kyle to shy away from that role. Again, his name carries a ton of weight. His experience is highly respected. He would be a great mentor. I hope he's willing to confront those who need to be confronted, and I hope drivers like Carson Hocevar are willing to listen. Anyway, that was my reaction to Kyle Busch's appearance on Kevin Harvick's show. Again, I'll link their full interview down in the description if you'd like to check it out. Now I'd like to have some fun. William Byron won the Daytona 500. Christopher Bell went 3 in a row. Josh Berry at Las Vegas. It's a good time to have B in your name. And many of the B name NASCAR Cup Series drivers are formidable. Playoff threats, championship threats. There really is no weak link. We are in the era of killer bees. But I wanted to have some fun today, so I created this arbitrary segment where I'm going to rank all of the B drivers based on how likely they are to win next. Not win overall, I think all these guys could win a race this year, but who is likely to continue this streak of B name winners to start the season? Does that make sense? Let's get started. At number 7, I've got Brad Keselowski. That's right, we're doing B first names too. Maybe Las Vegas was the start of a turnaround. They rallied to finish 11th, but Homestead Miami Speedway is up next, and Brad has never won there, though RFK Racing was pretty good at intermediate tracks last year. Darlington coming up in a few weeks. Keselowski is the defending throwback weekend race winner, but I need to see this team lead a lap, score a top 10 finish before I consider them a legit contender. I hate to pile on Roush back to back, but next is Chris Buescher. What I love about Chris Buescher is that he doesn't beat himself. Last 3 weeks he's finished 5th, 7th, 13th, very steady, very solid, no mistakes. But he's not leading laps. 0 laps led this season, and he's only earned the 22nd most stage points. He's getting good finishes, but he's not contending for the win. And if we look at Homestead Miami Speedway, the numbers aren't great. Outside of a random stage win, I think in 2021, hasn't done much. Frankly, I expect Buescher to run 12th, finish 12th this weekend. Next, I've got Bubba Wallace. He's the exact opposite of Chris Buescher. Bubba Wallace has the 2nd most stage points earned this year. He's led laps in 3 of the first 5 races. He's got a stage win, but he only has 1 top 10 finish. I like the next couple of tracks for Bubba. He ran well at Homestead last fall, earned some stage points, and then Martinsville, he's got a couple truck wins going back several years. I know it's been over 2 years since Bubba Wallace won a Cup Series race, but I like where his head is at this year. He seems really focused. I like that he has a new crew chief, so I got Bubba Wallace 5th. Man, this is tight. I've got Kyle Busch at number 4. Things seem to be trending in the right direction, like we talked about earlier. Throw some stats at you. Since Daytona, his average qualifying position is 8th. pretty good. He has 3 top 10 finishes at 3 very different tracks, and I think he had top 10 speed at Vegas if not for that loose wheel penalty. I think they're close on speed. Homestead could be a difficult animal considering that they have a replacement tire changer, a replacement jackman that they got from, I think, Matt DiBenedetto's Xfinity team and Chris Wright's Xfinity Series team. I just remember last season, pit road problems plagued their start to the year. I'm worried we're in for a similar fate here in 2025. But the speed, trending the right direction, so I have Kyle Busch at 4. At number 3, consistency, thy name is Bowman. Alex Bowman. Take out the Atlanta incident, his average finish is 7th on the year. Looking ahead, his Homestead numbers are okay. Martinsville, he's got a win a few years ago, but the numbers don't jump off the page otherwise. Let's turn these top 10 runs into a top 5 run. How about that? Then we'll talk about winning races. This might be a hot take, but I could really see Chase Briscoe winning one of these next few races. And I'm not really focused on Homestead. Sure, Martin Truex Jr. ran pretty well here in the 19, and Briscoe's got some top 10, some laps led. If they can have a clean day for a change, sure, Briscoe's a top 10, maybe a top 5 threat. But I'm really looking ahead to Martinsville, where Briscoe, despite being in less than stellar SHR equipment, has a next-gen average finish of 8.7. Darlington is after that. He was 5th in the spring, 1st in the fall last year. I think this team has the speed. Top 10 car at Phoenix before they were involved in a restart wreck, and Las Vegas, remember, he was 4 laps down. Rallied not only to get back on the lead lap, but actually finished 17th on a day when the rest of JGR just didn't seem to have it. So, I know the results aren't great for Briscoe, but there are things I'm seeing that I like, and I really like these upcoming tracks for Chase. But that being said, Homestead Miami Speedway is next, and frankly, Ryan Blaney is my pick to win that race. Don't let the bad finishes blind you. He had a top 10 car at Phoenix, maybe top 5, and I think he had the first or second best car at Las Vegas before he wrecked. He drove from 30th to the top 5, back to 30th, back to the top 10 before he wrecked. Passed more cars than anyone. He's great at Homestead Miami Speedway, finished 2nd the last 2 years, led 100 laps combined. He's also great at Martinsville, we know. He won there just last fall. So if I were to rank which B driver is likely to win next to continue the streak, there's my order. Blaney, for sure the favorite here at Homestead, of this group at least. Briscoe, don't sleep on him, y'all. The results look bad. I think the speed is there. Some good tracks coming up for him. Bowman, Busch, solid starts to the year, top 10 speed. Just need Bubba Wallace to finish these races where he runs. And then the RFK guys could absolutely swoop in and strike. I don't mean to discredit them by putting them on the bottom. We just haven't seen these guys lead laps yet this year. So that's why they're 6th and 7th. But there you go. Thought this would be fun. Chance to talk about the other killer bees behind Bell, Byron, and Barry, at least so far. A lot of great B names in NASCAR. What a wacky era we're in. Thank you all so much for watching though. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe for more. Huge thank you to my generous Patreon supporters as well for continuing to support the channel. If you missed it this week, we had a lot of special guests. Jeff Gluck joined the show on Wednesday. Yesterday, Lane Riggs joined Brennan Poole and I on Power Hour. Head to my channel. Lots of fun content this week. If you missed any of it, I hope you check it out. I will see you all after Homestead Sunday night. Be safe, have a good time, and I'll talk to you again soon.